So welcome everyone. Today is December 9th, 2024. My name is Tiffany Scroggs and I'm with the Washington APEX Accelerator. And I'm joined today by Trina Payton on our team. And today we are diving into the audio-visual solutions potential request for proposals that's coming out from the Department of Enterprise Services. And we call this series, this training series, Preparing to Bid. And the goal of the event is to help make sure that businesses understand how the state buys AV solutions, and how one might tackle this potential opportunity to compete. So we have, I did email out this morning, like maybe 35 minutes ago or so, a few attachments that are no longer publicly posted. So if you didn't get them originally when they were publicly posted on webs, I have provided them to you as a courtesy. Also included in there are two documents that we're going to walk through today. One is a bid, no bid document that you're welcome to use and tailor to your own needs. And the other is a checklist, a bidding checklist that we provide the businesses that we work with. So before we dive too far into the content, I wanted to invite you to introduce yourself in the chat. So we will have the chat feature there. You are also welcome to kind of raise your real hand or your virtual hand, and we can, entertain questions as we go. No need to keep this super formal. We're all here to explore the opportunity and get questions answered. So feel free to interrupt at any time and do all that. But in the meantime, if you want to introduce yourself, who you work for, or what business you own, and any other information that might be helpful to the others on the line, feel free to do so now. So I'll talk a little bit about why we're here today, about the APEX Accelerator and what we do. And then we'll really get into the fun part, which is the solicitation history. We'll review the actual opportunity as it was published. And then I'll go through those two tools that we're giving you as something that would help your firm navigate this world. So the APEX Accelerator is funded in part by the United States government. Our job is to help businesses navigate government contracts and subcontracts. Locally, we're supported by the Washington State Department of Enterprise Services, DES, provides us a bit of funding to help businesses navigate statewide goods and services opportunities. And that's why we're here today. So thank you to the state of Washington. Our mission is to increase government contracts and subcontracts to Washington-based firms. If you're not in Washington, that's okay. We have colleagues across the river there that can also support you in the same capacity. In Washington, we do have 17 advisors across the state in all corners, helping serve our businesses who go on to win significant amounts of contracts and subcontracts each year. This is our team map of where we are all located. You'll also notice that there's 4 other APEX accelerators serving the state, and you can reach them up above there with Rebecca, her team, and she's supported by Justine, and then we have Jeremy and Michelle at the Native American programs. So a little bit of a difference. So I don't work for the state, neither does Trina. We work for the Washington APEX Accelerator, which is a program of a nonprofit organization called the Thurston County Economic Development Council. That's a mouthful. But the difference between APEX accelerators and the state is something that I just want to point out, because a lot of times halfway through here, we'll have businesses asking questions as if we were a state official. And the state government, if they were here in their official capacity, they are official contracting officers or procurement professionals. I believe his name is Mitchell, and he's the one that's listed on the opportunity itself. He has a des.wa.gov website or email that you can see there. State government officials are authorized to spend taxpayer dollars. They cannot help you bid. They try and keep the process fair and equitable to ensure a fair process that's free of corruption. And they try and be as impartial as possible and never trying to give competitive advantage to one firm over another. The APEX accelerators, on the other hand, that's where Trina and I work. We work for nonprofit organizations, or in one instance, we have an office at Green River College. And we're authorized to provide technical assistance through counseling, education, advising, and events like this. We can review your bid proposal. We won't write it for you. We can review what you do and suggest improvements. So consider us an extension of your, I guess, proposal development team. Maybe you're a team of one, and that's fine. Add us as a partner in that, to help you navigate the world of public contracting. We work with any type of business selling to any level of government. So it's not always state procurement or federal procurement. We can help with the local stuff as well. So you'll notice in the request for information and the pre-solicitation kind of that was let on the Department of Enterprise Services website is that they mentioned a pre-bid conference. And I just want to foot stomp that. It was scheduled for the 12th. And I don't know if that is going to happen. I'm wondering if Cedric knows or not. Cedric, do you want to introduce yourself? I don't want people to think that you're Mitchell.
No, I'm definitely not Mitchell.
Mitchell gets all the hard questions. He's not here today.
Yeah, so I haven't been told of any changes to the date of the pre-bid conference. I know there are some extra things that are being considered that I brought up in my conversation with Mitchell about this. And so that's in 3 days, huh?
Yeah, it's on the
Oh,
12th.
so so much going on. So I will get back with him, but I haven't heard of any changes being to the date.
Okay.
And to introduce myself, so I am Cedric Alton from the Department of Enterprise Services. I am on the contracts and procurements, procurement, inclusivity, and equity team. So I'm the feet to the pavement of DES, getting out there and trying to acquire businesses and organizations such as yourself to bring to these type of events and let you know of, hey, these solicitations, that you may be available for. If you're interested, hey, feel free to.
Great. Thank you,
My
Cedric.
contact is in the chat.
Glad you're here today. So let's all assume that there is a pre-bid conference happening on the 12th, and we can dig up that link and send it to you after this event as well. But the reasons to attend the pre-bid conference is, one, Mitchell will be leading it, so you'll get a chance to meet him. You also might meet potential partners or competitors or frenemies or whatever you want to call them that are also interested in bidding. You can hear which parts of the solicitation they really emphasize. And a lot of times when people are speaking about an opportunity or the scope of work or some other requirement, they use plain language rather than the legal language that's in the document, and that can be insightful as well. A lot of times Department of Enterprise Services does not record their pre-bid session, so you must attend live. So it's an optional thing. You're not like precluded from bidding if you can't make it, but they're usually pretty useful. And you can ask questions. And a lot of times, sometimes if your question is really technical in nature, they'll say, could you type that in to the chat, or could you email me that directly? And note that every question you ask in the pre-bid meeting or in a follow-up email gets published for the world to see. They publish the questions and they publish the answers, and they do that as an amendment to the opportunity on the web's page. So we recommend that you attend the official pre-bid conference. And I put to be determined because I kind of assumed the 12th wasn't happening, but let's all assume otherwise. Let's assume the 12th is happening as for the pre-bid. Any questions on that? Okay, great.
Tiffany, can I add something to the pre-bid conference conversation? Tiffany's emphasis on attending the pre-bid is another key aspect that maybe you might want to add to your slide later, Tiffany, is that if they hear constantly a particular issue about an RFP, like if somebody brings up a question and there is conversation around that question and people are saying that's not workable, that's going to be a problem, this is the scenario, you absolutely can still influence parts of the proposal in ways that they can see how they can continue. You can make an influence, and you can also gather support with other people that are on that call that says, yeah, I see that same scenario as being a problem. And so there are times when they can't, but I've also seen it where they have made adjustments to make to reduce barriers, to make it easier for the solution or for the proposals to be evaluated, and for the people proposing to develop good, innovative, and quality solutions. So use that conference as the dialogue that it's supposed to be, which is laying out the RFP for the community to bid on. But then when there are issues to that bid, or to the community bidding on that, I've seen them be very open to solutions to those problems. So I want to underscore that attend those pre-bid meetings and weigh in when you hear somebody bring up something that you think is a problem too.
Yeah, and I guess I've never met Mitchell, but I assume I've met several of the Department of Enterprise Services contracting officers or procurement professionals, and this is true at any agency, really. Those individuals are pretty knowledgeable about what it is they're buying most of the time, but sometimes they're professional procurement buyers. They just buy what people tell them to buy. So if there's enhancements in your industry that maybe the buyer's not aware of because of technology enhancements, or maybe they're just experienced with your industry, that pre-bid can really help inform them so that they make a better procurement. They want the best procurement possible for the state. They want it to be clear. They want it to be in line with industry standards. And sometimes they're just unaware of whether or not they're out of alignment with industry. So that's another.
Their goal is to get as many people as they possibly can to bid on their procurements. That way they ensure the competition level that they need to have in order to feel comfortable going forward. This is a 6-year contract. So they're going to have to live in the next 6 years with this contract.
Very good. All right, so the history of it is, first off, Washington State Department of Enterprise Services manages statewide contracts for over about $2 billion in spend. So, and over 1,500 vendors. You are the vendors, the businesses. That's their job, is kind of to put together commonly purchased goods and services onto a statewide contract that other agencies can use to get what it is they need, rather than every agency going wild buying their own products and services. They can just piggyback and use the DES one. It's actually required that state agencies use the statewide contracts when they are available, unless they can justify not using them. Additionally, local governments can hop on and use the statewide contracts as well. The staff at DES conduct research to determine if a contract is needed. So they've done that on the back end. They've done, do we need an AV solutions contract? Let's take a look at the spend and see if it's worth our time to issue the contract and manage it. And they've determined that yes, it is worth their time. It's not a new contract, so the market research was a little bit easier for them as well. The current contract is linked in the slide deck, which you will get immediately following this presentation. Or you can just Google DES AV Solutions and it will pop right up, especially with that contract number. But that term expires end of March. So they're hoping to get, I would imagine, the new players in place by the March 31st deadline so that there's no gap in services. There are 4 vendors currently on the statewide contract, and you can view the vendors' information. You can view their catalog of pricing. You can view all sorts of information about what's happening now on that statewide contract. It's all public information for the world to see. So I believe this is the current contract. And it talks about AV room design, consultation, install, ongoing support, etc. And this is just a screenshot. You can scroll down, and that's where you see the current document history, where you can take a look there. And Cedric has his hand up. You have something to add, Cedric?
Sorry. No, you're actually going into it.
Okay.
So I'll wait to see if you go through what I was going to say.
Okay. Very good. So you can pull here the current catalog of pricing underneath current documents, and that's really helpful. And sometimes that pricing, you want to make sure that you're comparing that to what the actual scope was for the original contract. So those original contract information is there too. So this is increasing your workload a little bit to do this type of intense market research, to pull up the original scope of services, their original pricing in the bid tab, and kind of really drill down on what happened then. And then it's kind of interesting. You can see how the state might change things for the future, what's working, what's not. I went ahead and pulled from a site called data.wa.gov. I pulled the agency contracts for AV solutions from 2019 to 2024, and I saw $40 million worth of activity there. And you can see the trend lines, which is pretty typical when they issue a new statewide contract. It takes a little bit of a time for agencies to get used to using that. And so we saw a bump up until COVID distracted everyone, and then it went back up in 2022, a big sharp increase there. And 2024 is not quite over yet, so I suspect we'll still see some continued use of that contract through the end of March. These are the 4 vendors that are on it now, and you can see there the sum of total sales is from 2019 to 2024. If you were to download this data yourself or email me and I'll send you the Excel file, you could kind of hone in a little bit more and see, you know, which agencies were buying from who and how much. All right, and then okay, so there's a similar slide inside the solicitation draft that I sent you. I pulled it myself before I even saw that they had already pulled the data. So there might be some variances just based on the timing of when we pulled the data, but the data set is there. Looks like the #1 agency using this contract was the state of Oregon, followed by the Department of Health, which you can assume if it's an agency name, it's the state of Washington. So all the Oregon state data was pooled up into state of Oregon, and then the other agencies are a little bit more fine-tuned. So Department of Health, we have Labor and Industries. King County was a really big user of this contract. South Puget Sound, I'm located at a South Puget Sound facility, and our AV is phenomenal. So whoever did that as part of this contract, I can tell it was a $1.5 million upgrade. It's super fancy. Anyway, you can kind of see who the users are. Keep in mind, state agencies are mandated to use this contract in Washington state. Local governments can use the contract. So there's no guarantee that King County will continue to use it, but they have been a user of it, and I would assume that they're happy, but we don't know.
And so one of the observations is there's a lot of schools that use this contract. So if you have past performance in schools and I would think that there would be more agencies listed here, but there are not. There seems to be a lot of other sort of commissions and sort of not mainstream agencies. So your past performance could really be a highlight here if you have a lot of work and a book of business in that space.
Yeah, great, thank you. So I also want to point out, oh, go ahead, Cedric.
So, sorry. So one of the things that the solicitation doesn't necessarily cover, but the way that it's going to read once it is actually put out there is there's going to be 2 sides of this solicitation. There's going to be a installation design consulting side, and then there's going to be a maintenance side. So having a background in electrical, one of the things that I did inform Mitchell of is that you have to be careful when doing that, because not all companies are qualified or certified to install all brands. So that's one of the things that he was taking back to his supervision team to kind of see how will they deal with that, as well as adding a potential services leg to it, because there are no services addressed in this. They were kind of thing that it was kind of implied, but it's not. It's its own complete separate thing. So we are working to kind of refine that a little more for, to make it more easily digestible, for everybody.
Great.
Cedra, there's also no mention of training here. It says that all of that's sort of bundled up in a solution. Is training going to be something that is going to be an add-on or an interest area at all? Or are you assuming that as you deliver the solution, there will be at least initial training?
So you mean like training on the equipment? So that typically that should be a part of the purchase, the installation, design and consulting. The training on the equipment would come in that package.
I think it would do, I think, and maybe some of the other people can weigh in, that I wouldn't necessarily think that that's part of the delivery of the system. But I think if that's an expectation, just like warranty is mentioned there, I think that some level of training should be spelled out that that's a part of the solution.
Okay. I've Mitchell is out today, so I've emailed his supervision team. I'm just waiting on a response, but I can bring that up and get everyone that answer.
I just say that as a counselor because I will be counseling my clients to ask about that specifically so that they're not making any assumptions that you know, because assuming you're going to have a tech there for an hour, 2 hours of training, then that's a cost mechanism they should know about.
Yep,
Thank
and
you.
build into their price if they
And
need.
build into their pricing, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right.
I think so, at least on the receiving end, I haven't been on one where where we've received new equipment and install of an equipment and not gotten any training on it because no one is going to have experience on that, so that's still be part of the install package. But I will talk to them about getting it identified in writing because yes, I'm always for having it identified in writing.
Yep.
So.
Okay.
No surprises. Okay, great. I wanted to bring up, if you were to go to WEBS, the Washington Electronic Business Solutions site where solicitations are posted, and do a search for audiovisual, you won't see the opportunity that we're just describing. You would see this one, that's NASPO one, which is I would call it a nationwide opportunity. NASPO is a purchasing cooperative that agencies can choose to buy from or not. And Washington State, it was a courtesy posting by the state of Alaska saying Washington State has signed on as an interested state to this particular opportunity. And so they posted it as a courtesy to Washington State firms. And so you can see on there, and it might be something that you consider. It's the AV Equipment and Services NASPO Value Point RFP. It's due in January. And they already had the pre-bid conference and everything's already up there for you to take a look at. But I confirmed with DES that their intent is to use their own statewide contract and to not use the NASPO. And so, but that could change. That wasn't a finite, so like, I guess, official. It was more of like, our intention is to not use NASPO. Our intention is to use this one. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention here.
Can I add something, Tiffany? I keep interrupting your presentation.
No, I love it. Go ahead.
I want to encourage you guys to consider NASPO because it is such a broad contract. A lot of companies are looking for suppliers within certain areas that can cover certain areas that they don't have coverage in. And so it may not be a bad thing for you to reach out and see if there's some partnerships that you can gain there. Now, the contract that Washington State is putting in place is mandatory use for Washington State agencies, but there are other agencies that may be able to tap into the NASPO that you can provide coverage in. So I would just explore that opportunity and not discount it too lightly.
Yeah, and Aaron asked the difference between a purchasing co-op and a state contract. So it's a little tricky because the state contract that we're mainly talking about today is a co-op between Washington and Oregon. It's only Washington and Oregon. The NASPO opportunity, and I wish I knew what NASPO stands for. Somebody bail me out on that one, but it's a nationwide purchasing co-op. So the state of Alaska is going to be in charge of the procurement, and any state in the union is welcome to add themselves to it and use it to get their AV solutions. Cedric, you want to help
Yeah.
in
That National Association of State Procurement Officials.
there you go. Okay. Yeah. So they they do if you sell IT software, they have a pretty big significant contract. Automotive supplies has a big there's a ton of opportunity there if you were selling goods and services on a nationwide scale. Okay. We can talk more offline too if you have specific questions. So what will happen after award? So I'm kind of walking you through what's going to happen is they're going to post the solicitation on webs. You're going to find it. You're going to download it. You're going to read it. If you're going to propose on it, and if you get the award, you'll be listed on the statewide contract site. And this is kind of an old graphic from the security guard services, but it still is applicable. So I kept it in here. So if you're one of the awardees, you'll be listed on the DES website for agencies to go shop from. You'll work with specific state and local agencies on specific scopes. Like, hey, we're redoing all the AV at South Puget Sound Community College. Here's what we're looking at in terms of a scope. Please submit your cost proposal for that install. And then regardless of whether or not you get any business at all, you'll report quarterly to the Department of Enterprise Services. So there is no guarantee that you will get any work. You could get on the contract and then nothing will happen for 6 years, or how, is that what you said, Trina, 6 years? There's no guarantee of any work. So we always want to make sure firms understand that. But as you saw in the original listing, the 4 firms that were on it were all winning what I would consider significant work.
I would, if I can just add in, so one of the things that we are working on, because just as Tiffany just talked about, is yes, we do. This is a very good contract. There's only with only 4 companies on there. We have some contracts and solicitations with 400 businesses on it. So the opportunities that you would have on this one are very exponentially greater. One of the things that you can do to kind of make yourself more visible, being new or potentially added to this, is have your testimonial statements on your capability statements. You just get just have on there things that kind of identify the work and your business's quality of work, so that when these procurement officials are reading through them, they have something to go by. It's not just, hey, here's what here's just a general capability statement. Hey, Cedric from DES said that it's the greatest AV installation company in the Pacific Northwest. But it's things like that can set your business apart, and kind of get you into get moving in this space of gaining ground.
Yep, that marketing plan is a big deal. Yeah, thank you, Cedric. So the current opportunity looks like this. If you when it was live, now it is closed, so it's not accessible to you. But one thing I wanted to point out is that Webs is the only authoritative source. So do not rely on stuff that I send you or that even Cedric sends you at DES. You have to download it directly from Webs, and that's the only authoritative source. And be very clear with what you're downloading it, and label it as the date in which you downloaded it. And we'll talk about that. You want to make sure when you're in Webs that you check your commodity codes. When you register in Webs, you assign yourself some relevant commodity codes. You want to make sure that you've selected all the ones that are on here as a sample to make sure that you're getting notified of opportunities. And if you're not getting emails from Webs, then something's wrong and you need to troubleshoot that. So you can also, when the current opportunity is posted, you can see the vendors that have downloaded it. That is something that you can take a look at. And you also can see yourself after you download it. You can go back in and see if your profile is accurate. You can check your profile more proactively there. But this is important because this solicitation has what are called reserved awards. So that are reserved for small businesses or for veteran-owned businesses. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. This is where your profile looks like. So your homework assignment today is to log into Webs and take a look at your profile and see if it's up to date with the right email, the fact that you want to be notified of opportunities, that it has your status as an Office of Minority, Women, Business Enterprise, or Veteran, or Washington Small status. You can make sure that that's accurate. Once you're once the opportunity is posted, you're able to download all the documents. And this is where you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the web solicitation, and you can see all the solicitation documents there available for download. You want to make sure that you are reading and understanding all of these documents. They don't read like a fun romance novel or anything. They're actually quite dry, written by attorneys. And that's why we give you a pre-bid checklist to walk through as you're going through all of these documents. So before we dive into the checklist, I just want to kind of zoom back out and talk about where we're at today. So ideally, once the solicitation is posted, you've read the solicitation documents and you honed in on the solicitation and Exhibit B. I have given you the draft solicitation and the draft Exhibit B, so you could get yourself familiar with what the final document is going to look like. At that point, you can decide whether or not you bid. And then if you decide to bid, you organize your approach around that and you assemble your bid and you submit on time. In your email is a pre-proposal checklist. And this is a tool that you can take and customize to your industry and customize to your company. It's not intended to be totally inclusive for every firm. It's our starting point template that we provide to clients. And so what you would do is sit down with this document on one screen and then open up your second screen. And I know you guys all have dual screen, probably triple screen because of the industry that you're in. And you're going to kind of check through these answers and then the location of where you found that answer. So you're going to read the whole thing, but you're going to hone in on like the solicitation number, for example. You're going to go ahead and write in what that solicitation number is. The deadline to submit, put that right up top. When is this thing due? So we don't know yet because it's not out yet, but it's probably going to be on page 6-ish. So I've done enough of these to where I know about where the schedule of dates are. There's going to be a pre-proposal conference date. We're assuming that's the 12th of this month, 3 days from now. That is also found on page 6-ish. A site visit date. So this isn't in this solicitation, a site visit date, but it could definitely be in future solicitations that you do, where you go tour the venue or the facility and you take a look at what you're up against, how tall the ceilings are and all the things. And so that might be in there as well. A pre-proposal inquiry is a fancy way of questions and answers. That's how we say it. So there's going to be a Q&A period where you have an opportunity to ask questions of Mitchell. And it's a very formal process where you type them in. He publishes the question. He publishes his answer, hopefully, within that Q&A period. DES is usually pretty good about responding. The issue date of the solicitation, then reserved awards. Let's talk a little bit about reserved awards. Is anyone from a state other than Washington? Aaron, are you from Washington? I know Adam is. Okay, he's nodding yes. Great. So the reserved awards, they're going to do 2 awards for kind of everybody, full and open, right? And then 2 awards based on geography for either a small Washington firm or a veteran-owned Washington firm. So those are the 2 designations that they've reserved awards. So if you're a small business in Oregon and you don't have Washington, you are not eligible for the reserved award. It's also going to list the commodity codes. It's going to list the method of your submission, which is typically emailed. A lot of people ask, like, where in Webs do I submit? Webs is just the authoritative source for the documents. You actually don't submit via Webs, you submit via email. The type of solicitation, oh, this is probably outdated, but that there's going to be cost factors points and non-cost points, and those are incorrect. I can tell off the top, but you want to look up those around page 10 and take a look at how you're going to be evaluated. And that'll go into whether or not you bid, usually. So you would want to see how frequently you're able to update your pricing. if you're in an industry where this is really important, and you are firm and fixed for a year, but your prices fluctuate more frequently than that, you want to build that risk into your pricing, I guess, strategy, and make sure that you're not losing your shirt at the end of that 12 months. Okay. And then, okay. The other thing, those price escalation clauses are typically not found in the solicitation. They're typically found in the actual contract, which DES is great. They give you an actual contract with all the terms and conditions that you're going to be beholden to. So that's where you find your insurance requirements. It's going to be where you find, you know, the economic price clauses and all of that jazz. And it's really important to take a look at that Exhibit D as well, because there's a lot of things in there that might impact your ability to perform or your pricing, and you want to know those upfront. So once you've kind of done that checklist, and once again, you have a copy of the checklist, so pull that up and start filling it out and making it your own. If there's questions in there we didn't ask, or you want to add to it or subtract from it, that's your tool. But once you complete that, you're able to decide if you want to bid or not. And we recommend all firms kind of just pause for a second and decide whether or not this particular opportunity, whatever you're looking at, it meets your company's goals, is aligned with your proficiencies, and will result in a likelihood of success. You are all small businesses. You do not have time to bid on everything under the sun. So by taking a minute to do a bid or no bid assessment will allow you to kind of slow down, read the solicitation, understand the risk, and kind of think about your approach. So our bid, no bid checklist is in your email. It's an Excel document, and it's designed to allow you full customization. There might be things that you really care about for your business, and there might be things that I put in the template that you don't care at all about. So take those out. Doesn't hurt my feelings. There's two main questions that you ask yourself when you're deciding whether or not to bid. The first one is, can we bid? So can you meet the technical requirements? Can you meet the schedule, which is a little bit hard to determine here because there's not really a schedule. There might be some requirements like, I don't know, 48-hour, whatever, or some sort of issue like that. Do we understand the risks with the program, which is one of the risks is that Washington could decide to use NASPO instead of this one. They've said that their intention is not to do that, but I guess that is a risk of the program. Does our experience match the needs of the request? And that kind of goes into like, can you bid? Do you know this world inside and out? Do you have time to put together a winning bid? If you're completely slammed and you can't carve out time, then is it worth trying, or are you just going to make your hair turn gray? Let's see. Can you be profitable? And that's where the pricing information of the current incumbents, that's what the state and local agencies are used to paying. So can you be profitable with that same or similar pricing structure? And if not, are you willing to bid at a higher price and take that risk that you might not win? The second question you ask yourself is, do you want to bid? So is it a core program to your business? If you prefer to do events and you feel like this is more on the services side of actually installing, or maybe you do install and no services or whatever, is the scope of work core to your business? Is there additional work after this program? And I would say yes, any statewide contract is going to have the potential for you to have other local governments utilizing it. So even if you're in, let's say you're in Tri-Cities area, you got on the statewide contract and you're hoping state agencies use it, there's a lot of other local governments like the cities or the county that could potentially, or a higher ed or a local school that could potentially use that, and you could use that in your marketing plan to get more business. All right, anyway, there's lots of questions that you could kind of think about as you go through. And at the end, it gives you a score. So you rank yourself 5. Is this program core to our business? 5. Yes, this is all we do. This is all we want to do. I'm going to give myself a 5. It's kind of a side hustle. I don't know. I'm giving it a 2. You can kind of like rank yourself. It's not a test. You're not turning this into anyone. It's a tool for you to assess whether or not you should bid. And it gives you a total, and then you can decide what to do with that number afterwards. Trina, you've used a bid, no bid when you were active in procurement in your own business. Can you talk a little bit more about what I might have not shared?
Yeah, I think a tool is critical to you making an objective decision on whether to move forward with a pursuit, because the last week before the proposal is due is where everything comes together or either falls completely apart, and you will have had a lot of hours sunk into something that never really materialized for you. So this process alone is probably one of the most critical ones at this particular phase. There are a couple of things that are really important that you may want to add to this list. And that is, what is your relationship with your manufacturers or your distributors, the ones that really give you the price on the hardware? Because that's the price that you probably have the least control over. And so if you have a great relationship with a hardware or a manufacturer that gives you your platinum level status, and they give you great customer service, meaning customers are able to call them and get support if they have support questions that you can't cover, then that's a real plus versus someone that does not have a great partnership level and is in the pool with a lot of other mid-tier or lower tier partners, and your distributor, you don't have the greatest relationship with them. That may be a determining factor given the points skewed toward price. So of the 1,000 or so points, 750 are surrounding the price. So the relationship that you have with your manufacturer and your distributors may be a part of this bid, no bid, because maybe it's something you've been wanting to work on and haven't, or whatever. So some of it's industry specific, right? So if you are known for your services, right? Maybe you might want to partner with somebody that does have a better manufacturing relationship than you do. Maybe you guys are more in the training sense. So there's a lot of different nuances that you may want to put on here and have it weigh into your bid and no bid decision.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Peter, did you have something to add?
Yes, and about this document, a key question that you really should take stock in is, can you complete the scope of work? We have had businesses that have they've won contracts, and when they get to the negotiation stage and they find out exactly what they need to do, and come to find out they can't actually complete the scope of work. So yeah, there is a mechanism in there for them to kind of, I guess, leave a review, but that could, getting it and then not being able to complete it could have a negative effect. So yeah, definitely only bid on ones that you know that you can complete the scope of work.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and that could have been maybe a cash flow issue, or maybe an accessibility with their manufacturer, went south or something like that. There's all sorts of reasons why you might not be able to perform the scope as you intended. So think about those risks and mitigate them, I guess, would be better.
That's an excellent point, because even if you may not think you need a partner, maybe you might want to have a partner that's a subcontractor that can step in when you need that additional support. So the people that are on that bidders downloading the RFP list maybe are interested in partnering and maybe not taking a significant role until it becomes necessary. So insulating yourself, and like Tiffany said, doing that risk management profile. If you have a bunch of commercial business that's really taxing out your current staff, but you may want to bid on this because of the longevity of it. I think that all of those are considerations as well.
Great, thank you. So now we're kind of back, zooming out again. So once this hits webs, you're notified, right? Because your commodity codes were all pretty and you got the email notification the same day I did, right? You read all the stuff, you make sure nothing major changed. And then when you download it, you make sure you're downloading it with the date. So that you're aware of things that may have changed and that you're responding on the correct templates. Just recently, it's really raw. There was a statewide solicitation for a different service that a bunch of bidders used the old templates. They had issued the solicitation, canceled it, reissued it, and a bunch of bidders had used the old templates to respond. And guess what? They're non-responsive. So it was really kind of sad and tragic for everybody because the state didn't want that. They wanted to be able to accept everybody's bids, but if you use the wrong template, that's not responsive to us. So anyway, and then you decide to bid or not, you organize your approach and you assemble and submit. All the while working with your local APEX advisor. That's why we are here. We want to help you succeed. And so please use us if you're not already connected to your local advisor. You can find them at the washingtonapex.org website. And we can connect you over email too. That works